that you get after, you know, teaching for almost a year in this situation where you don't meet your student. But in some cases, some universities or some institutions of learning, or even some colleges are doing it hybrid, you know, they still get to see their students. But in most cases, no. Well, it's kind of how to put it, striking for me bila ada lecturer ataupun pendidik yang mention this. For schools, maybe it's more relevant, but in higher education, before this, I always get like they don't want to go to classes. They would rather focus on their research, you know, they would rather focus on their other jobs, other commitment rather than going to classes. And they will tell you the same thing. Pergi ke class is tiring. It's the other way around. Now, online is tiring. So you get to see all these contradicting views. Some people say it's tiring, some people say it's not, some people prefer to work from home, some prefer to be physically present at institution and all that. So it's really hard to say what works and what not, you know, not really working at this moment. But what I will cover today are mainly on, how to put it, tips or guides that you would probably be able to take into consideration, kalau boleh ambil yang mana yang okay tu. Sebab I wouldn't say kita boleh pukul rata lah in a way. Kita tak dapat nak pukul rata because in different institutions you have different requirements and different rules. So yeah, my session will be quite short actually. Luckily I prepared it quite short, not up to 1 hour. So the delay just now kind of compensate that. So what were uncovered actually? These are the 5 things that, you know, uncovered, and in fact this was taken from Lohmann et al. 2020. They published in late 2020 last year, and I have also reviewed quite a number of articles locally and also internationally. They are having the same recurring themes, more or less the same thing, right? You talk about Malaysia in schools, in higher education, in colleges, they are getting the same thing. So for example, number 1, students and lecturers preferred and miss the on-campus face-to-face experience. This is quite truthful. In a way, a lot of lecturers, a lot of educators are saying this. Number 2, a large percentage of students express anxiety about the academic performance. Academic performance here, ironically, some of them are getting good grades, but they felt like they are lacking behind because it's like, how to put it, they are not sure whether they are learning it right. That's the thing. They know, you know, everything is presented nicely by the lecturers or by the teacher and all that. They did it quite well in terms of the assessment, but they just don't feel normal as compared to what they have been doing before this in the physical setting. So they don't know whether am I getting an A for the right reason or not for the right reason. So they're not sure. And those who are having more problems will have more anxiety. Problems like they can't work with group members that well in a remote setting because sometimes call pun tak dapat, you know, chat pun tak jawab and all that. So these are the issues that cause them to be very, very anxious. And then number 3, lecturers were concerned about how well the students were learning in the McDo remote environment. This is also related to number 2. The irony I find is like lecturers are the one who set the assessment, but they are also the one who question their own assessment in a way. Dia kata, betul ke student ni dapat A, you know, betul ke quality dia okay, betul ke their learning outcomes are achieved and all that. So it's like they did it, you know, they are the one who assess the student, they are the one who give marks to the student, but they themselves question back, you know, betul ke student ni dapat A and all that. So a lot of voices about this as well. Which brings me to the point of quality, right? The degree that they get, is it equivalent to the one before, you know, or maybe after? So these are the issues. Number 4, so lack of proper space to learn and teach from home. This is very, very true, all right? Especially this year, you can see a lot of hoo-ha around where, you know, spaces at home are not really conducive. And then you have lecturers who are largely exhausted by the lack of control in online setting. This is also quite popular. Lecturers or teachers especially were not able to control the students. Like recently you have cases where students were found to play pornographic material during classes, or to show some unnecessary memes and all that during classes. So the lack of control is quite alarming to a lot of lecturers. So they don't know what to do. So most likely they will just stop doing online or virtual classes. They will just go for the forum or asynchronous mode, right? Those are the issues. So what I probably would tell you is like it's universal. You can Google up, you can even check on Twitter or social media, you see the same pattern occurring worldwide. It's not just in Malaysia. So sometimes when I read comments saying that Malaysia is doing a bad job, I would beg to differ, because I think we are doing better than most countries in a way in coping with this pandemic situation in terms of remote teaching and all that. So what are essential in your PdPDT Survival Kit, especially for this year? I'm not sure how long we will stay on in this, but hopefully things will get better once all this vaccination and all that went through and all that. So we'll see whether we will still have to cope with PT like what we did during last year, the whole of last year. But before I move on, a quick poll. I have sent the question to the host. I'm not sure whether the host can play the poll. I can't see it. Is the poll appearing? What is the most challenging part of PdPD preparation for you? Can you see the poll? Is it appearing? It should be in the WebEx. Yeah. So can you respond? What is the most challenging? I can't see the result. Maybe let me. Okay. So is it? I can see the. I can't really see the poll question. Anyhow, but
yeah, we can see the poll.
Yeah, let me see.
How will we respond to the poll? That's the question that they're asking.
Yeah, some say I can't see the poll. Anyhow, no, I mean is it popping up on your screen?
Yes, it is. Which is the most challenging part of PdPDT preparation for you? Is that the first question?
Yeah, I mean with the option given in the WebEx. By right, it should appear in the WebEx. Let me see whether I can control it. Because I gave the question to the host earlier.
They said they gave us something.
Yes.
Is it displaying? No. I can't control the poll. Anyhow, but you can openly answer in the chat, maybe, because it was supposed to be a poll in the WebEx itself, so that yeah, you can see the option because it's supposed to pop up in the WebEx by the host. Anyhow, don't worry, just type in maybe.
Yeah, you're typing it in.
Yeah, I can't share the poll as well, because by right it should be the host.
Part of PdPDT preparation for you. So you are basically asking that which part of PdPDT preparation is the most difficult for you, right?
Yeah.
So assuming that we all understand that there are parts to it.
Yep.
And basically there are three parts, I suppose: before, during, and after.
Yep.
Yeah. So which are the parts? Is it pre, during, or post?
Now the poll is appearing. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, no option given. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it doesn't matter which part. It could be the beginning, but here it's preparation, so it should be before your PdPT. So some say availability of internet access, how to control the crowd, prepare the content. Some say set up online classroom. What else?
From the chat.
Oh.
What is the most challenging part? The poll is appearing on your screen, but the options were not given, because by right it should come with the option. Anyhow, never mind. Thinking about the task for the app, the most challenging also, I think, facility and devices. for the student, how to get the most attention from the slow internet. But don't talk about slow internet. Maybe more on your part in preparing. Yeah, the option doesn't appear. Somehow the host, because I couldn't control the poll. It was pre-given to I gave the questions and the option yesterday. Anyhow, doesn't matter. Just type in your answers in the chat so that I can just quickly go through. To prepare the online material, unexpected technical glitches, repeating a video presentation, figure out ways to make the lesson more interesting, engagement. Okay, I think quite a lot. You can keep on typing that while I move on. All right, but I think the challenging part about PdPDT preparation to me is to know your learners actually. A lot of time when we prepare, because we prepare beforehand, we don't get the chance to know our learners yet. So by the time you go to the first class, your contents are already ready, and then you just teach normally without even having the chance to actually get to know your students or get to know your learners better. But if you want to have a very successful PdPT online learning, it's always knowing learners first, before even deciding which platform to use, before even deciding which content to use. Some of you say technical issue, internet, all that. Because if you don't know your learners, then you wouldn't be able to prepare well in terms of coping with all the challenges that you mentioned just now, all right? And also hands-on activities and all that. So knowing your learners, I think, is quite important. So that would be the beginning of your survival. I have conducted one-to-one coaching to a lot of lecturers and also teachers. Every time I start the session, they will tell me a lot of problems. They will tell me this and that. Students are not paying attention. They will tell me students have internet problem. They will say, all these problems. So and then when I ask how many hours or how many time did you actually talk to your learners one by one, maybe, or even in your class, did you ask them what time did they wake up and all that? So out of 10, maybe 2 or 3. The rest just go on with their things, even though students are not paying, they just go on and finish up, and then that's it. And then when students are not completing their work, they start to complain even further. So I'm not saying that you're not doing your job. A lot of lecturers, a lot of educators are doing very good job, excellent jobs in preparing materials, in preparing lessons, but they miss the important part, is to really engage the learners first. The content.
Okay, so, the poll is up.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe
you want to vote.
Yeah, you can start voting now. Sorry for that delay.
No problem. If you want to vote, you can. But those are some of the options given. But I think the chat covered most of the options given. I like the comments. Like one here says, I think the documentation is quite confusing, as there's no clear guideline on how to document online classes, assessment. Unable to prepare suitable material, unable to know. Yeah, true. When you're getting the first year student or first semester student, that's the challenging part because they're totally new. They're fresh from the oven, and then you have no chance to know them yet. Those who are in second year and third year, or maybe in the later semesters, you get more chance to play around with your content because you kind of know them already. If you have taught them before. So that's what I meant, because if you don't know them, you try and error a lot of times, and if you give up easily, like after 3 or 4 session with them, and then you start giving up because you just don't know what they want and all that, you're being, not to say unfair to the student, you're actually being unkind to yourself. You should be kinder to yourself by saying, okay, look, I've tried 3 weeks or 4 weeks, it doesn't really work out well. I think I need to try something else, or maybe I need to talk to my student, even more to understand what is going on now. Maybe you do hands-on, you have tried your best to do it, but then students just don't get it, so things should be better in a way. I'm not saying you're doing it wrongly, but perhaps something could be done to know your learners, because like I told you, it's a challenge to know your learners in a remote setting because you don't get to see them personally, and sometimes it's pretty hard. I've been observing a lot of classes as well. I mean, I went into virtual classes. I see the big difference between lecturers who know the students and don't know. Not saying no in terms of just knowing the name, but really know what they like. Really know how to push the content to suit their interests and all that. It's a big difference compared to those who just deliver the content without knowing much about their learners. You can see the big gap in terms of that. So one way to improve your PDPT is to start first by maybe doing some activities, relevant activities, just to know your learners more. Not so much about content yet, just to get to know them in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then slowly you kind of get what they like, and then inject or match the content, right? So you can answer the poll. Later on, we'll come back to the to the answer later. I'm gonna move to the next one. My next slide. Okay. So these are the 4 components that I would how to put it, components that you should have in your PdPDT Survival Kit. It's not an exhaustive list, but it would be good if you can consider all these 4 components. Yeah, somebody asked explain which person do I need to know about my students. Okay, I'll explain to that when we go to the 4th part, right? Okay, communication channel. This is the most popular part, where you're doing a lot of things. You have WhatsApp, you have Telegram, you have your own LMS, you have Moodle. Some of you are using Facebook, some of you are using Google Classroom, whatever you want, right? These are all communication channels. You can even use WebEx. It's also counted as communication channel. Zoom, Google Meet, and all that. But first thing is to ensure appropriate channels are selected as usual. I don't recommend you to, to use more than 2 actually. My suggestion to you is to keep like 1 for asynchronous and the other one for synchronous. You have 2 will be sufficient. Or if you need to go more than 2, then maybe add another one for synchronous, because synchronous usually you need to have a backup. Asynchronous is okay because it's asynchronous and it's not real time. It's there, so usually not much of a problem. Like for example, if you have Google Classroom, you can keep it there as asynchronous option. For synchronous, maybe sometimes you use WhatsApp, sometimes you use WebEx, or maybe Google Meet, depending. But why it's okay? Why it's better actually to fix into that, because your learner will know automatically where to go. Rather than this week you try WebEx, next week you go Zoom, and then you go to Google Meet, they get confused, right? Like what happened to me just now as well. Because when you get too many links, that you get confused, and then when you click on the wrong one, you go to the wrong thing, and then it's gonna delay a lot of things, and you end up not having meaningful session, right? So number 1. So this is one of the things that you need to know as well about your learners. The internet connection, the kind of phone they use, the kind of devices they use, or maybe some may be using laptop or and all that. Just do a quick survey. It will be good to know every student's capability in terms of their internet connection and all that. And if they are not having good connection at home, where do they go? Do they go to the neighbor's house and all that? So just do a quick survey and get to know them. So if you notice that a lot of them are not really doing or having good internet, then you might want to focus more on the asynchronous part. So the content for the asynchronous will be more. So the synchronous you reduce, because they don't get to, they don't get to see you that often because of the internet connection. Prioritize promptness within limits. I like promptness, but within limits. So it's always good to set the clear rules to your learners, right? Set it clear, like I will respond to you almost immediately, but within certain time frame, so that they know. And then the limit, sometimes you can give a bit more flexibility, so you don't have to go by office hour maybe, because you know that perhaps they have a lot of classes going on during the day. So you can set some. I know some lectures or even some teachers set special time, like 7 to 8 or some even 8 to 9, just for them to answer questions only. So the student will know that you will respond later, even though they don't get immediate response, but they know that they will get a response, but within the limits, right? So it's good to set the ground rule. Course structure and the calendar should be clear and easily accessible. This is something missing. I have been observing a lot of classes. I noticed this is always missing. What happened was it's always uploaded as a PDF or something without any meaningful lead into the structure, the calendar. There's no narrative per se. There's no narrative to tell students this is the first week, we're going to learn this, next week we're going to link to this and all that. The narrative is disjointed. You come this week, you learn one, that's it, gone. Then next week you come in again. It's like very disjointed kind of structure. So this is something for everyone to take into consideration, including those who have multiple, lab session or hands-on session. It's always good to have that. I'm going to show you some sample. Inject more social presence. This is something that I noticed as well. A lot of time when you use platform or channel, it tends to be so teaching based in a way, because we try to transfer what we do in the normal classroom where we are in control of everything into the online environment. Unfortunately, it's not that straightforward. And like I told you, when I observe all these classes, I think I observed close to 100 so far, different classes up from primary school until higher education. What I notice is, if you look at primary school, the teachers can engage the students really, really well because of the social presence. But when I observe the higher education, the teachers are monotonous. The teachers don't smile. There's no even interaction in terms of normal informal topics and all that. It's a very, very dry, very rigid kind of environment. So that causes students to be very, very passive, right? It's already happening in the physical space, but when you put it in an online space, it can go both ways. Some students suddenly become very active, some turns into passive beings and all that. So inject a bit of social presence, smile. I was with one class, UKM. This is a bachelor class, UKM. What happened was, this lecturer invited different people to come into the class from time to time to share certain topics, and I can see the excitement of the students, because they know that they're going to learn something from different people, and then the lectures are so, I would say, like, very exciting in the way she delivers the content and everything. So this is something for us to take into consideration. Sometimes when we record the recording, right, when you record your classes on WebEx, on Zoom, it's always good to look back. I know you don't like watching yourself teaching, but it's always good as a reflective way of improving our teaching and learning, techniques or approaches. And I would also encourage you, when you are rewatching yourself teaching in recorded videos and all that, if you can also observe the reaction of the students. Sometimes the recording may not come with the faces, but in my case, I normally will try to record the student reaction as well. You can always open 2 panel and then try to record the faces, because you will see how students react to the way you deliver certain things, especially your voice, right? Next is, this is a sample communication channel. One example here on the left is, I picked it from my friend. I think this Aisha, right? So she uses Padlet to show the course structure. So student will come here every week and to kind of know the structure. But she also put links to her videos or her session and all that in LMS. Just that this is like a one-stop center where all the links are here, so she can perform the easy checking on the student whether they can see the course structure or not, week one, rather than presenting it in the form of like the normal PDF format. And of course, you have been exposed to a lot of tools. By the way, today I'm not going to go into detail on tools, because I saw the whole list of the webinar for this this time. There are quite a number of sharing on tools, so I believe you will get more later on all the tools. I don't want to go into detail, so I will be touching more on the fundamentals, right? Another one is Discord. I use this a lot as well. It's quite new, not really new, but it's new in education. It's called Discord. You can use this as a communication channel. What I noticed is, because it's threaded, it's more systematic than WhatsApp in a way. So you can chunk your things, like on the left panel, you get to see the units, right? The units, and then you get to chat with your students and all that. So you can also give them roles from time to time. So this is Discord, right? Another one is interactive whiteboard. I know you have been using Jamboard, the existing board in WebEx, whiteboard in WebEx, and also Zoom and Google Meet and all that. But one that I noticed quite useful now is called Hey Hi. You might want to try this out later on, heyhi.sg, or just Google Hey Hi. What happened is, this is very simple, straightforward. It's synced with the phone, and you can use your phone as the digital whiteboard. So you can you can write on your phone, it will appear on the screen directly. So you can use your phone as the writing pad if you don't have the the writing pad and all that. But it's all in one. It comes with the chat, it comes with the webcam view and all that. You can disable the webcam view, you can disable chat and all that, and then student can participate in your question. So if you upload a question here, they can actually respond to it. So these are some communication channels you can use. So it doesn't have to be the Google Classroom all the time. You can fix one, but once you fix that, then student will know. Like some of my colleagues, they love Miro, so they don't go to the university's platform, or they don't go to Google Classroom. They tell students just go to the same Miro platform. So every week they will go to Miro, and in Miro they can also do live teaching as well. So it's like 2-in-1 kind of tools, right? So these are for you to consider. So bottom line is, for the communication channel, try your best to communicate, but don't overwhelm yourself by replying chat late at night and all if you don't want to. What matters is a meaningful communication with your students. And if you would like to do synchronous teaching or live teaching, make sure those sessions yang 2-3 jam tu are very, very meaningful, right? Not only to learn the content, but also to know your learners and to build the relationship with your learners. Peer-to-peer as well, all right? Give them chance to learn from each other. Okay. So I'm going to go straight to content and creation skills and tools now. All the question you can just leave it in the chat or even Q&A. I will try to answer later. The poll just now, I think a lot of you answered. Let me see. A lot of you actually answered designing activities. Yeah, so which is quite true. Which is this topic, which is this content and content creation and skills and tools. Based on my observation, I've shared this many times. Video creation, the screen recording with appropriate chunking is one of the best so far. And students love it. One reason why Han Academy is very popular is because of this as well. And recently, I shared a tweet about Han Academy, and to my surprise, I got about, I think, quite a lot of retweets, and then a lot of responses say they learn a lot from Han Academy compared to the classes that they get from the, from the teachers. All right, so it means don't spend too much time trying to design, complicated videos with a lot of animation and all that. Try to focus on the essence, which is the explanation that you want to do, but do the screen recording with a proper explanation. A lot of lecturers or educators, they do video very fancy with animation, but the explanation is very bad. Meaning the students just watch the animation, but they couldn't understand a single thing from it because the explanation was so bad, So one way to improve your explanation is to watch some good videos like the one in Han Academy, see how Saman Han actually explains certain concepts. So because the listening is always, the priority in the video or screen recording. So when your explanation is good, they can relate to what you show on the screen. So for example, now if I don't explain well, right, and then I just put the keywords like this, and I say like this, okay, for content creation, you can read yourself. Next, we go on. That's not meaningful, right? I mean, if you're teaching, if you're recording your video, it's not meaningful. Even though everything is there, it's not meaningful to the learners because you should be explaining in detail, which is not, present in the visual form. That's what makes your content better. It has to be systematically organized. Try to organize better, right? Teacher effect. Again, back to the how to put it, the social presence effect, not effect. Effect means the emotion part. Again, you go for videos, you go for even real-time teaching. What I noticed is you have to be a different person. I learned it from the hard way. In my videos, if I compare myself doing my YouTube videos in the early days, if I compare now, it's a difference. There's a huge difference because you have to show a fake self in a way. You have to be very excited of sharing the topic. You have to be very, showing your expertise in the area, and students know that you are really good in that part. So you have to show this as well. If I watch your video and I listen to your voice, sekarang saya akan mengajar tentang topik satu, kita pergi ke topik satu dulu, lepas tu, that doesn't show the excitement of explaining things, and students will just, stop watching your video or listen to you. So it's already happening in a physical class. If you turn it into video, it's even worse because it can be played multiple times, all right? Learn tools that are easier for you. Don't try to master all in a short time. I think this is quite crucial. I don't encourage you to try everything, to master everything. Go for the easier one first. Google Suite or Google Suite, the tools are already very useful actually. Just try to master those first, or use the tools given by your institution. Some are given for free, like Canva can be free now, and all that. So you just sign up for the free one first. Try it out. Don't pay, right? Then if you're happy with it, you think you want to go further, then you pay for it, right? And go next. Yeah. This is some example of what I meant by logical structure. If you have control of your LMS, you can label it nicely, like learning resources, learning activities, and then you have learning assessment. So you label it nicely, then the student will know this is how it flows, right? This is the content, this is the activities, this is the assessment. So if you use online tools like what I showed here, I use wooklab.com a lot. So if I were to show, content teaching, if you appear like this in your teaching, student will be more excited because, oh, how come something different today, right? Like this one. Suddenly I appear in front of the wooklab and all that because I use the green screen to cover up. But you can do this all the time, you can't do this all the time. Just create a sense of excitement to lure your students from time to time, right? So these are just sample. Assessment strategies, I think this is the one that are being asked a lot during this period, especially those involving exams, right? As you have been told, you should be focusing more on alternative assessments, which are formative in nature, meaning progressive. It has to be authentic and challenge-based, aligned to learning outcomes, but provide flexibility in the process. Meaning the outcome is the same. You don't change the outcome because after all, we are talking about OBE, outcome-based education and all that. You don't change the outcome, but you allow flexibility in the process. Let's say last time they should be doing few steps in the process. Now you allow a bit of flexibility so they can try other processes as well. But the outcome is still the same. So you don't change the goalposts, all right? They can dribble the ball or whatever they want, but the outcome is the same. You just allow more flexibility in the process. If exam is necessary, use suitable platform. You can use, I don't know whether your institution provide any, but it would be good to use platform that allow randomization of questions and also your question itself, right? Like I said, or make Google a friend rather than an enemy. If you know that student will be using Google, then don't use questions which is Googleable. You know what I mean? Make some questions which are not Googleable. What do you mean? Sometimes when you look for ideas for questions, you tend to Google and then you end up using the same question. Of course, it can be searched and student will be giving you the same answer because you are using the same item, right? So one way is to change the item, make it yours, or reverse engineer. Give them the answer, ask them, how did you get the answer, So even if they Google, they will have to go and understand the whole flow in order to explain to you how did they get the answer. So don't try to, how to put it, like make Google an enemy, like I'm trying to tell you. Even now STM is open book and all that, right? They allow learners to bring book and all that because that will actually, make the question even harder because they need to think, right? Provide opportunity for students to achieve micro successes. Micro successes is like if you online learning because you don't get the chance to give minimum feedback one whole go. One way is to do it microly, in a micro manner. So if you have the chance to conduct a live session like 1 or 2 hours, immediately inject the assessment bit within. Let's say if I were to use a quiz now, after I talk for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, I give them a quiz. That's micro, right? Micro, if they manage to answer all correct, all of them, then I'm happy. And they also know they master the content that I delivered in the first 15 or 20 minutes. So that's micro successes. Rather than wait until the end and then, lump everything and then you get overwhelmed because you need to mark so many things. There's so many things to assess, right? So do it like a micro credential manner where you kind of like assess according to the learning outcome, but you divide it or you chunk it out, right? This is a sample just to encourage students to be more active in assessment. This is exactly my assessment for my students. You don't have to, the slide, I'll give you the slide, but the challenge of doing online or collaborative activities in virtual mode is that the students don't know each other. And what happens is they don't know who they are. So in my case, I created a Google Sheets on the platform, and then I asked them to form groups. Also, they put their names. You can see every name will have their own role: the prime, the hunter, the dazzler, the maker, and then dazzler. So they have their own role. The reason why I give them the role is my assessment will tell them what to do. For example, in this assessment, the prime will be doing the introduction, the dazzler will be doing the problem, and then review a little blah blah blah. So what happened is, because I have the role, next assessment I will rotate. So the prime, because you did the easy part introduction this time, next time you do a something. So you set what they need to do, you assign the role, and then they don't feel like how to put it, they don't feel like they are lost. At least they know what they are contributing to the group. And if that part is badly done, then you know what's the problem. Like, for example, let's say the design stage is wrong, then you know that the maker and then there's are having problems, and you'll be able to diagnose the group dynamics immediately. This is some sample, but I also encourage, like in any group work, try to incorporate a bit of reflection, a bit of individual reflection, like this one, 5%, so that they get to voice out their personal views, right? In this case, like, of course, a bit more work in assessing, but if your group is too large, you can limit the words, right? I was telling you the tool for assessment just now. If you're doing exam, you can make use of the Google Forms add-on. A lot of lecturers don't know this. In Google Form, if you just use the features available, of course there are a lot of limitations. You can't do this, you can't do that. But Google allow you to use the add-ons. Like if you want to set timer and all that, you can set start and stop time. You can add on. You can have proctoring as well. Proctoring, this is like the webcam activation and all that. So these are a lot of add-ons for you to try it out for the Google Form. So you can develop your quiz or exam using Google Form, but you add on with all these features. So that will help you to beef up your online assessment, right? And then the last point, the well-being and support. I think I have mentioned this many times as well in the previous section as well. The first one is empathize, both ways, students and you as the educator. One of you asked me just now, what do you ask about your learners? I think you don't have to know every single thing, but you have to show that you are the one that will be able to listen to your students and they are able to approach you. So if you can show that kind of vibes or that kind of presence, then you realize that when every time you go to the class, you'll feel happy to teach them because they appreciate you as not just an educator, but as a human being, somebody that they care about, and you also care about them. So you don't have to ask everything, right? But the basic things should be, the family, socioeconomic background will be good. Even if they don't tell you like how much they earn is okay, but roughly what kind of group they are from, and also the internet facilities, facilities that they have, and how many siblings actually. I think that's quite crucial as well, because if they have larger group, they tend to have more problems. I have students with 14 siblings, and then every time online classes, she will struggle because everyone is like, fighting for the devices and all that. So it's good to know, because or else you wouldn't be able to help them, right? Seek help and support in dealing with your technical difficulty. I know some lecturers may not be comfortable doing a lot of things, so it's good to ask. I suggest this, have a good list of where to go and who to ask. If you have friends who are good in that area, you just list out. It's like your help book or whatever, and you know who to call or who to refer to or which site to go into, right? Proper scheduling and time management is crucial due to the fading line of work and home. I think this is a problem. If online learning were to fail, this would be one. It's the fading line of home and work. If you're an educator, you don't know whether you're working or you're at home now, because it seems like every hour is a working hour. So it's quite challenging. So if you can balance that out, then that would be very good for your survival in the online teaching mode, right? So I'm going to end with this poll. I'm not sure whether it's available for you to answer, but you can just quickly chat it in the box if you have. How would you measure your success in PdPDT kalau ada, right? How would you measure your success, right? If you can quickly type in the chat, or I'm not sure if the results are going to be the poll number 2, but anyhow, if not, just quickly type how would you measure your success in PdPDT. Oh yeah, it's appearing now. I hope you can see it. How would you measure your success in PdPDT? I have about 2 minutes left. Right. but you just quickly answer. Even if I'm going to share, and am I allowed to share file? Yeah, I can share file. So you can answer, or I will read through some questions and then I will answer while you're answering the poll because we're running out of time. Oops. Oh no, this is sharing. Yep. Okay. Oops. I'll try to answer some question here. While waiting for you to respond quickly because I only have 1 minute left. If you have any major questions to ask.
It's okay, John. We can have about 5 minutes more. We started late actually.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah. Let's say masa kecederaan 5 minit.
Yeah, okay. Question from the Q&A part. Oh, this one is technical. I think Self answered that. Any recommendation on the most appropriate ads for activities involving role play? My subject is basically being carried out by using role playing and doing it alone at home, ends up by the student just reading the dialogue. You mean they pre-record or they do that? Role playing, I think, depending on the number of your number of students in your class, I do recommend you to do it live if possible, if they can. That would be good. Arrange like a session for those who are able to attend, like Google Meet or whatever, and then you have the role playing, and then they role play in front of you. Because the moment they read the script, you will be able to identify it directly, and then you can tell them like because you are observing them, try not to read from the script, so they will be more natural, right? How are we going to measure OBE towards PdPDT? You measure the OBE, meaning you measure the outcome. Because your assessment will be the one that determine the OBE achievement, right? Your outcome-based achievement. It actually depends on the assessment, largely. But like I told you just now, you don't change the outcome, but you try to allow more flexibility in the process. So there are many ways to do this. Different institutions will have different requirements, but all I can say is, as long as your assessment are aligned to your outcome, I mean your course outcome in the beginning, then you're fine because you don't change anything, right? I don't agree when you say because of online learning you have to change the outcome. You don't have to, right? Unless of course the outcome is already problematic in the first place or it's not achievable doing online. For example, in medical field where the outcome is based on really hands-on, then you have to do it in a hands-on manner because the online platform will not be able to help that. But in general, the outcome should be the same. But what changes is actually the process towards it. So something for your team to consider, how to change the process a bit, but the outcome is still the same. So the assessment is quite crucial. The way you design the items, the way you design the activities, or the tasks for your students to complete. So hopefully you will be able to achieve the same outcome, but the process will be a bit different. So, last time maybe it's a direct alignment to your outcome. Now the process a bit, longer, it could be shorter, but the outcome is still the same. Do we need to pay? I answered that already. You don't have to. I think if you use your institution account, you will be able to get it for free. Quizzes can be used. I'm not covering tools today. In my session, you can cover a lot of tools later. But quizzes, Kahoot, all these are suitable tools, so you have to explore. All right. What else? Any other question before I can go more?
We'll be closing the poll in 10 seconds.
Poll, any
poll? Yeah, the poll is about to be closed in about 2 seconds more. So. Yeah.
But it's really good if you guys can actually gather input within your own college. That would be good. in my case, when I do one-to-one coaching or when I observe different classes and all that, I notice the disparity is quite clear within the same college itself. So it's like you are not communicating with each other. You know, it's like two lecturers teaching the same course, but it can be so vastly different. You know, even the assessment is different and all that. So I was wondering, you are not communicating between yourself. You know, even though you're teaching the same course. So when I dig further, and then I realized they assume that they can just do whatever they want, you know, without checking with each other. So one way to do that is to also cross-check with your colleagues or your partner, or even, you know, within your small unit, just to cross-check with each other whether you're doing it okay or you're overburdening your students or and whatnot. Okay, so that would be also quite useful. Most appropriate app. Sorry, I kept seeing the same. Any other questions? No more. Sekiranya aku dah. Yeah, more challenging for those teaching the disabled student. I would agree. And I had two blind students, like I told you before. I think if you were in my session before this, but it's really challenging. But you just have to make do with whatever you have and try to ensure that they still are able to catch whatever you're trying to deliver. Okay. There are many about technical things. I think that one you can refer to SELF from time to time. I think they have a very good team to help you out on that. How do we measure attendance appropriately? Some students took the opportunity to work part-time during class time but log into the class by being a silent listener. Should we be strict about it? I think this one is also technicalities that you can deal with within your institution. If you think the student really in need of working part-time, then you can talk to them whether they really need that or change the hours a bit, maybe have a special session after their work and all that. But that requires more commitment. So it's good to discuss among your team how to go about this. Don't work in silo in a way. In this situation of online learning, if you have a problem like something like this, don't try to solve it on your own. Try to talk to your unit and deal with it as a team, because you might not know they are doing that only to your class, but they are not doing it to other classes. So it's good to talk to each other. All right. Do you prefer face-to-face or online classes? Personal view. It's not like a yes. It's not a binary. It's a continuum. If you ask me, of course, I prefer face-to-face because that's the nature of how we learn. But in situation where we are not able to meet, or even in difficult situation where I'm not around, then I would prefer online classes. But it's a continuum, not a binary like you must go for either one. That's why I think hybrid is one of the best way to go in the future post-pandemic, right? So I think I'm running out of time now. So the poll question, I think mostly managed to answer.
Yeah, can we have a look at the poll? The results.
Student assessment scores. Yeah, student assessment score is number one is level participation. Yeah, I mean that's the typical one, right? I'm glad that you didn't put student attendance and then recognition from colleagues. Okay, quite interesting. But yeah, if your students are active and then they are very participative, you feel like you feel more excited to carry on. So that would be one way to measure the success of your PdPDT GT journey, right? If you have further questions, feel free to contact me. If you have further questions, I try my best to answer. So apology for the for the delay just now, or else I wouldn't be able to answer more. I would be able to answer more questions, but unfortunately I can't now. So if you have anything, just feel free to let me know. But I like the fact that some learners actually are enjoying online learning more because of the flexibility in some cases. So you have like I said, they have a very how to put it, contradicting findings. One group they love it, one they don't really like it, but you have a very contradicting finding. Okay, think that is all from me, Dr. Nana. So sorry for taking the extra time, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chua. It was a great presentation. We had a lot of discussion going on in the chat, so I think that, to me, that shows that there's so many things that they want to know and they want to learn. And wanting to learn is already part and parcel of a way of moving forward, and it's very positive in that sense. I just have one question for you, if you don't mind. You have to put it in a very simplistic form.
Okay.
In one sentence.
Okay.
The difference between an online teacher and a face-to-face teacher. How is that? How do you see that difference? Between an online teacher and a face-to-face teacher. If we can switch the mindset, then I think a lot of problems can be solved. What do you have to say?
The difference would be, how should I put it nicely in one sentence? I think the difference would be being comfortable in the online mode, and not trying to transfer everything that you do physically into an online mode, thinking that is a very clear-cut transfer kind of thing. It requires a bit more thinking, I would say, but hopefully technology will be so good in the future where it's really like a normal face-to-face mode, but at the moment it's not. So you really need to change the mindset a bit in terms of changing the mode. Apart from changing the actual mode, you also switch your thinking mode to an online mode where you know the limitation of online platform. You also know the limitation of the tools, but you make use of the strength or the benefit of everything that you have online. We have been talking about online learning for so long. I mean, like a decade ago, we were promoting MOOC. Remember, like MOOC was so in like 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago. Then now we are still talking about how to do it online and all that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether that answered your question or not, but that change of
you sort of said that it requires a different mindset, definitely, which means that you cannot transfer anything from the world of previous face-to-face to the world of online. It doesn't work that way, right? You cannot expect your students to participate fully in an online class. You cannot expect, that kind of thing, that kind of expectations must be different. So that
I had one session this morning with one lecturer from not this morning, yesterday morning, with one lecturer from Indonesia. So he was saying the same thing. He said, throughout my life of teaching, I never prepared PowerPoint. But because of online teaching, I have to learn how to structure my PowerPoint nicely. I said that's a success to me because you learn something new and then you know how to switch to an online mode. If you were to stay on the actual way of doing face-to-face without the PowerPoint, it's not going to work. And, and then you will backfire. Students will be complaining, they don't know what you're teaching and all that. So I think I like what you mentioned where it really requires a bit more thinking.
And the acceptance of being in a different world, right? So thank you very much, Chua, for that interesting presentation. I like the way you put the 4 factors into the PowerPoint so that we can clearly see the 4 domains of where we should put our efforts in: communication, assessment, and so on, and then tie it up together. I would just like to end, if you don't mind, with this word of, I hope it is something that is positive. Face-to-face teaching has been around for 300 years since the industrialized revolution, right? Our online learning has started in a mess as of last year, 1 year, right? So don't expect it to be, to overtake and to become normal and comfortable as much as the face-to-face, which is 300 years ago. So it's going to take time, but it's going to stay here. So let's persist on and make it as best as we can. Thank you very much, Chua, for joining us. Terima kasih kepada semua orang. juga kerana sudi untuk bersama kita bertanya soalan, menjawab polling, dan dan juga kita tidak lupalah kepada Chua dan TJ di sana, walaupun lambat, insya-Allah it's a very good and interesting presentation. Thank you very much. Sekali lagi to everyone, this is our session. Our next session begins at 10:30. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Ram.
Thank you.